G'day guys, and welcome to a preview for the 25th of March, I believe it is, the BMW Stakes Day and also Vinery Stud. Stakes are the Group 1s for the day. Looks like we're going to get a bottomless track again with, a heavy 10 at the moment. Doesn't look like it's going to ease up too much, so it'll be a similar track to last week. Survival of the fittest, hard to run on most likely, wanting to save a little bit of ground up the inside if you can, and then getting a few off in the straight should be okay with the rail out 6. I think it's going to be pretty evenly wet across the track, and no real big advantage to come too wide in the straight. So looking for fast, fit horses, going to stay out of trouble and run us big races. So heading to the first on the day, and it's the 1400 metre Group 3. I believe it's called the Schwepper now. It used to be the Bailoo, or traditional lead up to the size produce. A couple of different form angles to go through here. The top weight in Murrahib is coming out of the Blue Diamond Stakes and having 4 weeks between runs. Albumin comes out of a midweek, had 4 and a bit weeks between runs. The Story is debuted in 1100 midweek and comes here. Marsupials come through the Black Opal, and then horses down the bottom like Villa Carlotta and Smooth Landing have come through different races as well, with the Tulloch and Easy race, as opposed to the Frolic She Will Reign race, which is obviously provided the Quinella for the Golden Slipper. So if we have a quick look at a couple of Murrahib's runs. Here he walked in a small field and then really done something coming home off a really slow tempo. So for him to create a 5.5 length margin off a really slow tempo, like they've gone out about 13 lengths or 2 seconds slow compared to what they normally do, is a really good effort. The way he sort of extends through the line there shows his quality. He went to Caulfield in the Black Opal. He was wide without cover, and nearly impossible to do at Caulfield. And he wasn't exactly weak on the line. Huge effort really. The only query for him is the 4 weeks between runs and the wet track, but that track at Sale when he got home was obviously a lot worse than publicised. I think it was close to an 8 than a 4, so he's got a lot of ticks in a lot of boxes here. Draws ideally and really does look hard to beat. Albumin's a bit of a nightmare for me. He sort of missed that run in the Pago lead up when he got his leg up in the stall. That wouldn't have cost him too much work or anything like that. I think he might have been a bit sore for a couple of days, but that's about all. And goes in here 4 and a bit weeks between runs, jumping 300. It's a big ask for a horse to do that, and I think I'm going to have to risk him. Story is definitely worth looking at. A horse that's got huge upside. Trialled really well prior to this. Debuted on a heavy 8 and really just sits just midfield after jumping, clearly up there with them. Sits 3 and 4 wide the trip. Minimal pressure. Puts away a few nice enough horses. Mr. Grumpy's gone out and won again in the country with a big weight. And the others have run a couple of decent races since. So Astoria's won that effortlessly. Good acceleration. Strong to the line for 1100. So she's got to jump. He's got to jump to 1400 from that, but definitely looks progressive and up to it. Marsupial comes through the Black Opal, which did provide a couple of trapeze artists come out around 5th or 6th in the Golden Slipper from this race. Did have his chance on a slow tempo and was only fair on the line, whacked away, but Chauffeur ran a good race in the Golden Slipper as well, so it's hard to knock the form line, but not overly excited by him. But in saying that, you're getting $17. not too excited by a couple of these other runners down here. Villa Carlotta's 3 weeks between runs and probably shows up a little bit shorter than she maybe should be off a wide gate here, simply because she battled on quite strongly, even though beaten 7 lengths behind Frolic and She Will Rain, who have come out and run the Quinella in the Golden Slipper. The horse that I sort of pointed out, if anyone saw the review of this meeting 2 weeks ago from Smooth Landing, was I would have really loved to see her with blinkers on or winkers or something to switch her on, but she's a horse that, I'll go back a little bit, struggled to take this gap here, really green, strong late, 1400's going to suit her, soft gate's going to suit her, she can improve significantly without surprising at all. I have noticed they went up 25 to 1 her, so that seems a big price. Going back over and trying to nut it all out, I'd say it should be a genuine enough tempo. I'd be expecting Astoria to cross up pretty handy from a wide gate. Mission, there's a few hard fit horses that look like they want to lob on the pace. Bidwee, the Mission, Albumin might roll forward. I'm not sure about that, probably with the fitness query, but he might just end up there somewhere. I'm keen on Astoria. I think it's a really nice horse going forward. I think it's probably definitely the horse to beat here, and got a sense of timing to progress through these races through the back of it. Murahib is definitely a horse that ticks a lot of boxes, and even though I'm not overly keen on Melbourne form usually, it looks one that is well placed in a race of this nature. And Smooth Landing's the roughie that I can see definitely improving. Marsupial maybe around there for the, and Villa Carlotta for the exotic players, but definitely keener on the other ones from a win perspective. Quite keen on Astoria and Murahib as the 2 leading chances in the opening event of the day. Race 2 is the Star Kingdom. Interesting little field. Artistry comes off a really solid win first up. They did go along quite well, but she's sort of known as not the horse that loves the wet, and still was able to overhaul some smart sprinters. Danish Twist drops back from the Coolmore, where she was desperately unlucky not to win. Impending is an interesting horse, had 2 runs where the betting really has said that he needed the runs, and probably finds a little bit weaker event here after chasing home La Romaine a couple of times in Chautauqua. So drops in grade, looks like the fitness level should be bang on, and he looks really tough to beat here. Probably just a little bit interesting where he gets to from the draw, in the run. Dalciello was a bit of a forgive last start. Not sure if he's a 1200 metre horse or he's 1000, 1100, but he did battle on quite well considering he had a little bit of checkered passage, and it's probably the other chance, and sought after first up with Adam Aronis carrying only 54 kilos is an interesting runner. So Artistry, I'm probably not too worried about risking her this time. I think a heavy 10 is a lot different to this track we saw last time, and she's probably one that will struggle on this sort of surface. Just wanted to show here, this is Danish Twist. Really just got held up for momentum at about this stage where the winner's getting to the outside and building ahead of steam, and she's still sort of not fully committed to a run. And it's not until the last little bit she gets a bit of air and daylight here and charges through. Looked like she was a bit unlucky. This is obviously a Group 1 1500 metre race. Drops back to the 12 here off only a 2-week break, which is not easy to do, but the surface might help her, and she's another one that's drawn a little bit awkwardly, so they might have a decision to make at the start. Here's the replay of Impending. Total Forgive first up. Had the right run here, Impending, just getting to the best part of the track here outside of La Romaine. Just probably knocks up there at the 150 to 200 metre mark and battles on well. That's pretty solid form for a race of this nature for mine, considering he's definitely on the up fitness wise. drops back 100 metres in trip. I think they'll be fairly positive out of the gate. There's not too much speed other than Jungle Edge, and you've got sort of Kadiro impending that could cross from the wide gates into solid positions pretty well. I think impending looks desperately hard to beat here. This is his race. Jungle Edge, probably a little bit of a forgotten horse, loves the wet, will roll along on the back up off a good effort last week, but you're not going to get the price you saw last week, and I'd be rather betting around him at this stage. So impending for me, Danish Twist and Doubt Yellow, probably the two main dangers, and Jungle Edge will be around there. Keen to bet around Artistry this price this time, even though she probably is. You know, I'm not going to be laying her at $9, but probably leaving her alone this week and sought after her around the similar price is probably not one that I want to find first up. Race 3. Neville Selwood Stakes, and a race that looks a pretty, not I'm going to say thin race on paper, but there does look to be a couple of leading chances. Astronomos, or start from at the top, a sign was okay first up in a slowly run 2,000 metre race, or only evenly run, that's for sure. Battled on quite well. Interesting, he stays at the 2,000 metres here, and I think that's probably not going to be enough for him to run on. He'll probably get well back again and battle on. I think Single Gaze is probably still trying to build fitness. Gets to 2,000 pretty quickly, jumping 500 metres in trip, and probably will struggle. Astronomos, absolute mudlark, out-sprinted a pretty solid field second up, pardon me, over the 2,000 metres this trip. This is his pet distance. This is his pet track conditions. He's definitely the horse to beat. Probably just has to get away from that inside gate, and he's the one to beat. Classic Uniforms also a good find here. He's coming off a really solid effort in the Canberra Cup that was running ridiculously fast top speed. He was up on that speed after sort of beginning a little bit slowly, if anything, which is makes life difficult for him. He's worked around during the time where they're running a fast tempo and does all the chasing. Again, sort of gets outside the lead, and he fights back to beat Red Excitement late, who had gone past him. And he's definitely not dying on the line. I think 2,000 metres here in a race where he's far more likely to dictate from the front, with probably Lord Dier the only really other challenger for that front position drawn outside him. Either way, he's going to get a fairly soft run on the pace and be tough to run down. Floodlight was an interesting runner from the Darley team. Okay, first up, open to improvement, hasn't really seen too wet a track, and the horse that is in good form is the Sorceress coming up from Melbourne. Had 4 mile runs to this point, really hit the line pretty solidly against the bias the other day. Did have its tempo in its favour, but does look like 2,000 metres will be okay. Hasn't won over that trip just yet, but I don't think it's an issue. The wet track could be an issue. A combination of that and sort of looking like he's going to get back, or she's going to get back here, is something that probably makes her a bit of a risk, considering she's only around the 9-2, 5-1 mark. So for me, Astronomos and Classic Uniform are the betting propositions in the race, and looks a good betting race from that perspective. Race 4, the Doncaster Prelude. Love the first run in Australia for Spectroscope. He obviously did some things wrong in the mounting yard and can improve on that. He did look like his condition had plenty of improvement to come. Steps to 1,500 metres, which is about a 150 metre jump. I think he was 13.50 first start. Looks perfect. He ran away from a nice horse there first up. I really probably need to show that replay. He eased out of a slow tempo and really like the way he built into his work here, flattened out and pinned his ears back and put away some decent enough horses that had a slow time of it up on front, and he was only going to extend his margin the further he went. Really liked that last 100 metres and what he did, and I think that the extra little bit of trip will help him. Wet looks okay for him. A couple of other interesting runners in the race are probably New Tipperary, who sat wide, no cover, out to this sort of trip. Second up, interesting he stays at this distance. I probably would have liked to see him a little bit further, but if he's sent out towards the front with a light weight, he'll battle on for sure. He's an interesting horse. No doubt drawn the wide gate. It was interesting to hear that the jockey didn't dig him out last start because he was worried about him over racing and being a bit soft. If they were to adopt the front running tactics here, I would be interested in this horse. I think he's definitely up to a race of this nature. It's just a matter of whether they're going to be negative on him again here. Echo Effect, who's 5 weeks between runs, plenty of ability, looking towards the Doncaster following this. Obviously this is the Doncaster prelude. He looks an interesting runner, that's for sure, but hard to come into him off that little setback, even though he probably is the most promising runner in this race on paper, on form this preparation. Bottom horse Lanciato, 4 weeks between runs, goes up a little bit. Maybe that the really testing track's a bit of a query with him, but he looks one that can be definitely competitive. And then there's just a bunch that just around that similar mark, Kenjawood, Rudy, Marinostro, who all probably put in honest efforts. Was hoping for a little bit better price than the 380 about Spectroscope. The only query for me is the jockey change, and I really think he'll run a huge race, no doubt around the 20 to 1 mark. Looks an interesting runner again. If there was a tactic change, definitely that they were going to ride him more aggressively, I would be coming involved there. And I don't want New Tipperary to go around a loser for me. Might get out in the betting a bit. $6 currently in a pretty tight market, so possibly wait for that one. They're the three I'm interested in, definitely making Spectroscope a winner at this stage. Race 5, the Tulloch Stakes. Really kind of weird and weak race for mine. I'm not saying it's a weak race, but it's probably weak compared to previous years. Prized Icon's the tried and tested Group 1 winner and Group 1 horse in the race, but he was beaten a long way last start. He is the kind of horse that I want to forgive for that sort of effort, because he does usually build into his preparations, and he's looked better than that last time. So whether it was that bottomless surface that just got to him, or whether his fitness maybe needed that run and he just looked after himself, is the $1 million question. He's the one to beat if he's back to his best form, and betting will probably show that late on Saturday. Whether if he's solid in the market, I could definitely entertain him. The two runners out of the New Zealand Derby in Jon Snow and Rising Red are quite interesting. Rising Red obviously had a little setback before last week, and they're also talking about not running this week if the track is a really heavy, which it looks like being, so that has to be a bit of a question mark. Rising Red actually is the one that had the better form of the two for mine, even though it's well into its preparation. Jon Snow obviously has a nice little setup back from the 2400 to the 2000. We saw what Ginger Nut did last week off a similar preparation, and does look a real chance. There's a couple of roughies down the bottom that I thought looked interesting. Garban sat wide and won a 2,000 metre open class race at Hawkesbury Open Age race at Hawkesbury last start. It looks to be a real improver, and Bowman apparently now booked to 100 to 1 was big odds about him. Hollywood Mo's going much better than his form reads for mine. He's another one that's around the 30 to 1 chance, and looks a possible knockout in a race of this nature, definitely building in fitness and right there. And Righteous Mate Nakatua are two horses that have promised a lot, and maybe not suited by the wet ground, but still open to improvement. And it is that sort of race where it does look like the winner could come from anywhere. The top three probably got the best lead-up form, but there's quite a few down the bottom who are on the up and fitness-wise on the up as well, and look like they could probably figure in what's a tough to work out Tulloch Stakes. Race 6, first of the Group 1s, it's the BMW. interesting form lines sort of clashing here. You've got our Ivanhoe backing up off the Group 1 win last week where he resumed and won over 2000 on a heavy track. He's now got to back that up, as in how much that run took out of him is more the issue than whether he's got the ability. He loves that wet track, and you can see from that dominant effort in the straight in that last part here where he comes from back with Hartnell, who was the short price favourite. First up, he'd had a couple of runs, Hartnell under his belt, and you see how well our Ivanhoe sustains his run through the soft ground.
The United States is trying hard, but our Ivanhoe, he hasn't raced since the Melbourne Cup, but away he goes.
Apparently he was a little bit lame after this. He did something on the way back to the gates. That has to be an issue. Again, if the betting's solid on him late, definitely can entertain him. His stablemate Exospheric comes out of the same race as Humidor, so we'll have a quick look at this. It was obviously a day that was well documented. It was hard to make ground. They did go very hard in this race, and Jamaica's also in this, so we're sort of at the start here. We'll see Jamaica, which pressed forward. Humidor's back here, and I believe this is Exospheric last. So Humidor on the outside, Exospheric, and Jamaica being ridden aggressively up front. I'm not sure why they took off before acceptances here in this race, but we'll see here. Exospheric cutting back towards the inside, Humidor getting to the outside, and Jamaica taking the front. Jamaica obviously the best run of the on paces, led sat outside the leader, went up there, kicked away. Exospheric hard to line up here because you can't really tell how much room he's getting, whereas Humidor's out and rolling and building ahead of steam and really strong to the line. Humidor's not proven at the 1.5 miles yet, but definitely does look an improving type with the new stable. Weir doesn't look like 2400 is going to be an issue. He really looks like he's got gears, and he looks a definite contender here. Exospheric, which snuck up along the fence, was definitely not beaten too far. Wet track doesn't look like it's going to be too big an issue for him, even though I'd prefer Humidor. I think it's around the $10 mark, and probably not a bad each way chance considering Humidor's half his price, and well, actually $11 around Exospheric and $4.60 the best around for Humidor. So more than double its price, and only beaten narrowly there in restricted room. So interesting. Jamaica was obviously a good effort there too. 2400 and wet, no issue. Hugh Bowman takes the ride, drawn perfectly. Looks like it's going to get the sit on. Let's get his Spirit be the first person to challenge and probably look the winner for a long way. So an open race is pretty much what I'm getting at. This is Tavago's lead up. Obviously Red Excitement got out and over raced, set a huge strong tempo. Tavago gets the run through the middle here. Only his second up run off a poor campaign last time, it has to be said, and shows that he's back on track here. A really heavy track's probably still a little query for him, but I doubt that it's an issue. 2400 is definitely not an issue, and he'll come on from this again. It's just really nice to see the way he lengthens here and continues to lengthen to the line. He looks a contender. If I had to have a pick, it's Humidor, probably from Exospheric. I like that form line for this race. I like they've closed. I'm a bit scared of our Ivanhoe having a bit of lameness and backing up 7 days off a 2,000 metre heavy track win. Tavago's going to hit the line, and Jamaica's going to get the run and stalk and be hard to beat as well. So Humidor, Exospheric, Jamaica, Tavago probably having had a good look at the race now, and no rocket science there with all four of those in the betting. Vinery Stud Stakes is the next race, and really deep field here. A little bit surprised by the betting. I thought that there were a couple of others that justified shorter quotes than the top two. I thought, even though Fox Play probably bings the right form lines, not being proven anywhere near the 2,000 metres to this point has to be a query. 1,500 metres last start was the furthest she's won over, and she's been beaten 2.7 over a mile. Last start she got the fast tempo. Very lucky to get away with the win after finding a few issues in the run, and ran down Zenalicious late. I've got a bit of a worry over that form, and I'm interested to see where they get to from gate 11 with this horse as well. So a bit of a query for me at the 5 to 2. Lavella Diosa's had a lower respiratory tract sort of an issue. Only 2 weeks since last seen when failing, possibly due to that issue. Comes here 9 to 2 chance, which seems very aggressive for a horse that's had setbacks. Harlow Gold comes up from Melbourne, $7, $7.50, $8.50 is the best I can see. Her effort was similar to that of Exospherics, where she was sort of poking up the inside. I just would like to see the head on with her to know whether she just peaked late there, and she's one that, she promises a lot but is yet to find the line for quite a while, and probably one that I'd be more inclined to back for the place than the win here. Dawnwall and Louboutin come out of the same race at Kembla. Actually, we'll show a quick replay of Harlow Gold's effort. Went a bit far there. So this is a horse back here in the middle in the yellow cap that I've got plenty of time for in Anaheim. He comes out and runs well last week in the Derby lead up in the Rosehill Guineas. He comes wide. I think Harlow Gold's back in here. Where's Harlow Gold? In the red cap. Sticks to the inside and sort of very similar effort to Exospherics, who's just poking along inside, which was the better part of the track. Anaheim's the one that I would have preferred to see her do something like this to be keen this time, rather than sneaking up inside in the fast lane and then a little bit weak on the line, if anything, compared to Anaheim directly. Obviously, he's a colt compared to a filly, but I still thought he was dominating her late. So I'm a little bit worried about that, but she does look at least a place chance. Dawnwall and Louboutin come out of that same Kembla Grange race, which was quite a strong race. Louboutin set a fast tempo. He's kicked away here, and Dawnwall's got the good ride through the inside, come off its back and really strong late. She was coming back from 18 to a mile there, so entitled to be stronger than Louboutin, who was stepping to the mile for the first time this preparation. So she's back to 2,000 metres here, looks fine, draws ideally. Louboutin also draws ideally to probably sit on the back of Cassidy, the Waterhouse runner, and they look, both Cassidy and Louboutin look to run bold races here as well. I'm very surprised by this $17 around Cassidy for a last up 2,000 metre winner that looks to get a soft enough lead here. Go Waterhouse, train rapid, improving type, and then Louboutin's going to get first crack at her from on her back. So for me, from a betting perspective, I'm interested in Cassidy at $17. Louboutin, I think, will get out past the $8, so I'll be waiting for her, but definitely interested. And Dawnwall's the firmer for mine, or with the $7 currently around, that I think will be gone by race time. I'd expect Fox Play to be fairly solid with Bowman sticking, but easing a little bit, and I think Labella Diosa will probably get out with those queries around her fitness levels due to that respiratory infection or whatever the case was there. Race 8 and the Emancipation Stakes, quite a few runners from the Coolmore backing up here, other runners coming from different form lines. I think Daisy Doom was the runner of the race from the ones coming out of the Coolmore. She's flying, she was only second up there. She now should be peaking, gets a nice little run on the pace. Andrew Atkins is probably the only query. It's a tough for the junior riders to compete in these races, high pressure, but he'll do a good job, no doubt. Dixie Blossoms had no luck in that last race, but I'm surprised she comes up close enough to favourite here. I thought she was still a bit weak for my liking, and a bit of a risk from a wide gate over this 1,500 metre journey. Sandbar was definitely good enough in the Coolmore to improve and say that she's got a chance on this sort of track. Hugh Bowman aboard. Rocket Commander is an interesting type. 1,500 predators is probably a stretch, jumping up in trip off that last start run. Over the 1,200 metres, and now gets 3 weeks between runs up to 15, but she'll run a race. Happy Hannah's going to get back. I really think Extensible suited back to mare's grade. That tune-up was what she needed last start when beaten by Spectroscope, but she's one that does look drawn awkwardly in 12. I'm not sure where she gets to. Zenalicious is also drawn awkwardly in 1 and probably gets back along the fence. Peaks fitness-wise and can run a race, but Daisy Doom's the one I want to be with here. I think around the $5 mark's probably fair enough price. There are, some good solid mares in this race, but I think it's the one on the up that draws ideally and ticks a lot of the boxes here, including, on pace, fitness, handles wet. There's really no downside to her here for mine. In an open race, lucky last, and probably the hardest race of the day. You've got quite a few under the 10-1 mark here. Handfast, Serene Majesty, Mr. Individual coming up from Melbourne. Bring Luck off a solid effort first up. Ancient History off a solid effort first start in the country. Mr. Individual is the one that I probably settled on top pick here. No luck first up at the Valley. Missed the kick a little bit. Raced out of his normal pattern. Should hold a position this time around from a solid gate. And he should run a really positive race. There is, it looks like Serene Majesty's very well placed here on class. Her effort was okay first up, just never found the right spot, was always back towards the inside there and couldn't get going. Gate 8 is a difficult one here. I'm not sure where she ends up to. Really hard to find anything with real confidence after this. Handfast does look like he finds a nice enough race for him off a solid run at Canberra, but he doesn't hit the line so often. He promises a lot more than he delivers. I think Bring Luck was a good effort first up. Very wary of him second up at that same trip. The wet track will probably help him and he'll run a solid race. Boiler and Be Like Data, horses that are probably going to get up on the speed and run honest enough races, but hard to be confident about them. Ancient History did sit outside a slow tempo its first start and battled on okay. A little bit weak late there for mine and concerned about that. I couldn't really come into him. And this first start in the country for Exebec for Chris Waller, Hugh Bowman to ride is the query runner at the $13, $15 mark as well. So not a race I've got huge confidence in. I think $7 Mr. Individual looks quite appealing considering he's likely to jump on the bunny this time and not get a huge amount of pressure and does look like he's definitely up to a race of this nature. He was obviously nommed for the Doncaster prelude as well, so if they've got a Doncaster in mind, they'd want to be going close in a race of this level. That's about it for the day. There's not too many I'm highly confident in betting in. There does look like there's a little bit of value around, a couple of nice races where we can probably find an edge, and then there's others that are building into bigger and better things later on in the carnival. So hopefully the track holds together and we get races on. That's the main thing, and everybody finds a winner and has a good day. So thank you guys.